everyone. I hope you all are doing great. Welcome back to our channel AglaSem Schools. Today in this video I will be covering chapter 4 of class 7th of English, that is the cob and the anthem. So in this video the sign of approaching winter were there. Birds had begun to fly south. People seemed to want new warm clothes. The dead leaves covered the ground. This approaching winter made Soapy restless. He had no home and no warm clothes. Yet he hoped to find a comfortable lodging for the winter. He hoped to spend winter's 3 months in the prison on Blackwell's Island. He had been to prison several times with that purpose. Once again, he made his small plans for going to the island. Soapy's first plan was to have some good dinner at some fine restaurant. Then he would say that he had no money. A cob would be called. He would be taken to a judge. The judge would send him to prison for 3 months. He entered a restaurant. The best food and the best people in their best clothes appeared here every evening. Unluckily, the head waiter saw his broken old shoes while he was entering the restaurant. Quietly but quickly put him out. Soapy entered another restaurant. He was able to get food. After that, he announced that he had no money. So, he himself requested the waiter to call the cob. Instead, the waiter threw him out on the hard street outside. His first plan to reach the prison didn't work. There was a shop with a wide glass window. Soapy took a big stone and broke the glass. People came running. There was a cob also. Soapy admitted breaking the glass, but the cob's mind would not consider Soapy. Men who break windows or glass do not stop there to talk to cops. They run away as fast as they can. Thus, this plan of reaching the prison also failed. A fear caught Soapy. No cop would arrest him. He thought of something else to try. He came to a cop standing in front of a big theatre. He began to shout as if he had too much to drink. The cop turned his back on Soapy. He said to someone standing near him, "It's one of those college boys who won't hurt anything. We have orders to let them shout." He was referring to Soapy as the college boy. Soapy was getting more and more restless. In desperation, he took away the umbrella of a man buying a newspaper. The man followed Soapy. He asked Soapy to give him back his umbrella. Soapy asked him to call the cop standing at the corner. It turned out that man himself had stolen the umbrella, so he did not call the cop. He offered to give it to the Soapy. Soapy threw away the umbrella. Just then Soapy left a hand on his arm, so he decided to fight to change his life. He wanted to make a man of himself again. There was still time. He was young enough. He would again find his old purpose in life. The sweet music had changed him. He decided to find work to the very next day. The new thoughts had begun to take a firm hold on his mind. Just then Soapy left a hand on his arm. It was a cop. He asked Soapy what he was doing there. Full of his new strength, Soapy began to argue with him. The cop took Soapy with him. The next morning, the judge sentenced him to 3 months prison on Blackwell's Island. So now let's turn to our very first question, which says, what are some of the signs of approaching winter referred to in the text? So the answer is, the narrator says that when birds begin to fly south, when people want new warm coats, and when dead leaves fall, one can be sure that winter is near. Further, moving to question number 2, which says, write true or false against each of the following. So part 1 says, Soapy did not want to go to prison. So the answer is false. Soapy wanted to go to prison. Second part says Soapy had been to prison several times. So the answer is true. Third part says it was not possible for Soapy to survive in the city through the winter. So the answer is false, because there were places in the city where he could go and ask for food and a bed. These would be given to him. Fourth part says Soapy hated to answer questions of a personal nature. So the answer is true. Further, moving to question number 3, which says, what are Soapy's first plan? And why did it not work? So the answer is, Soapy's first plan was to have a good dinner at some fine restaurant and then say that he had no money to pay. This would cause a cop to be called who would then arrest him. The judge would do the rest. However, his plan did not work. As soon as Soapy entered the restaurant door, the head waiter saw his broken old shoes and the torn clothes that covered his legs. As a result, Soapy was turned out of the restaurant. Further, moving to question number 4, which says, but the cop's mind would not consider Soapy. What did the cop not consider and why? So the answer is, the cop did not consider that Soapy could have broken the window of the shop. He did not consider him because men who broke window would not stop at talk to cops. They would run away as fast as they could. On the other hand, Soapy was standing right there. The cop then saw a man further along the street, running, and he ran after him, thinking that he was a culprit. Further, moving to question number 5, which says, we have orders to let them shout. What is the policeman referring to? So the answer is, when Soapy began to shout as he was drunk, the cop turned his back to him and said to a man standing near that person shouting was one of the college boys and he would not hurt anyone. He said that the police had orders to let him shout. Further, moving to question number 6, which says, write true or false against each of the following. First part says, Soapy stole a man's umbrella. So the answer is true. Second part says, the owner of the umbrella offered to give it to the Soapy. So the answer is false. Further, moving to part 3, which says, the man has stolen the umbrella that was now Soapy's. So the answer is true. Fourth part says, Soapy threw away the umbrella. So the answer is true. Now moving to question number 7, which says, there was a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. What brought about the change in Soapy? So the answer is, the change came about in Soapy when he came near his old home. He could hear a song coming from the room and it sounded familiar to him. He remembered that when he lived there, his life contained such things as mother, flowers, high hopes, friends, clean thoughts and clean clothes. At that moment, there was a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. He saw with sick fear how he had fallen. He saw his worthless days, his wrong desires, his dead hopes and the lost power of his mind. So now, discuss the following topics in group. Question number 1 says, suppose no cop had came at the end of the story, Soapy would have perhaps given up on his bad ways. In accordance with the promise he had made upon seeing his old home and remembering his childhood days, he would have looked for the man who had offered him a job and then upon getting the job would have started leading an honest man's life. Question number 2 says, retell an episode in the story which is a good example of irony in the situation. So the answer is, one of the ironic episodes in the story was when Soapy decided to turn a new leaf of seeing his old home and remembering his childhood days. He decided to fight to change his life. He would pull himself up and make a man of himself again. Right at the moment, a cop asked him what he was doing there. He answered that he was not doing anything. The cop did not believe him and Soapy began to argue in his defense. The cop arrested him and he was sentenced for 3 months of prison on Blackwell's Island. So guys, in this video I have covered all the questions of chapter 4, that is the cop and the anthem. So if you have any query or any doubt related to any of the question discussed, please put your query in the comment section below. For more such NCERT solutions, keep watching and do not forget to subscribe our channel AglaSem Schools. And do not forget to wear a mask and take good care of your health.